Well, the news, of course, today has been announced that Kevin Groom, who's been the Deputy Chief Fire Officer on the Isle of Man, has got the top job. First of all, congratulations.
Thank you very much, Paul. Absolutely delighted and proud to become the new Chief Fire Officer of the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service.
Now, was it certainty? I mean, you know, you've gone up through the ranks, or was there competition?
There was nothing certain in the process at all. I've been in the service for over 30 years now. Started as a firefighter, served in all the areas of the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service, and obviously the Chief Fire Officer, Brian Draper, is now retiring in February, and the applications were open to all applicants, both internally to the level of brigade officer and also to UK applicants if they could meet the correct criteria. A 2-day process following quite an in-depth application process, going for an assessment centre and then finalising for panel interview.
But were you the favourite? I mean, internal and all that sort of thing?
I believe I had the support of my colleagues in the Fire and Rescue Service, both through our retained service and through our whole-time service. But no, definitely a fair playing field, and certainly the key for me was that with my 30 years, I certainly know my service. I have the experience to lead the service into the future, which I'm delighted to be able to do.
Oh, well, I'll come back to that in a second, but I mean, you went in with Brian Draper, didn't you? Roughly the same time, wasn't it? You've been there.
Yes.
So you've done your 30 years, as you said, so shouldn't you be retiring?
People have said to me, why would you like to stay on? Brian Draper has been the Chief Fire Officer for nearly 9 years now. I've been the Deputy for 5 years. I feel I have still more to give to the service, and I've certainly worked alongside Brian for the last 5 years, very, very closely in developing our service.
But I mean, you've had some good times. I know the equipment you've got, you had great budgets, didn't you? Those days are over.
Yes, unfortunately, we are in a position similar to all government departments. We've had to go through a process, particularly over the last 3 years, of reviewing everything we do and revising everything we do to make the savings. That has actually meant to our service a loss of headcount. We've had to look at how we buy our equipment, how we buy our fire appliances, basically a whole scope review of our service. There's still more work to do. I've got a 3-year budget in front of me, which has been directed through the Council of Ministers and our Chief Minister. We've got to find other ways of making savings to become even more effective and efficient. So there's a lot of work ahead, Paul, a lot of work ahead.
I mean, I know obviously a few fire officers and the crew, and you know, there were some great payouts, and you went out and you got the extra this and extra that, and that went, and there has been obviously this sort of feeling within, not, I wouldn't say demoralised, but there's certainly been a sort of feeling of this is not as good as it was.
No, certainly, and to me one of my main priorities is looking at my people, to have a well-informed people strategy, and to me part of that strategy is communication. I've got to go out there regularly and talk, not just to my people, but with my people. I'm going to go out there and seek their views, seek their ideas, that we have some extremely innovative people working in our service who may come to me with great ideas. I've got to be honest with them. I've got to regularly communicate with them, because my job here is to lead this service for the next, hopefully, 3 to 5 years.
You must put your marker down though with June Watterson, the Minister, to say you can only cut so far. Have you already had those sort of conversations?
Yes, certainly. We do have regular update meetings with our political member, who is Mr David Quirk, MHK, and obviously that message and information then gets passed on to our Minister, June Watterson. Mr Watterson, again, is a very switched-on minister. He is very aware of the services that we provide, particularly through the Fire and Rescue Service. We're all about driving down the risk, Paul. You know, that is our key priority. We've got to ensure that communities on the Isle of Man feel safe when they go to work, when they visit, and also as they live here. They've also got to be very confident in our services, and we have to be satisfied, as they do, that we're providing a good service. In these times, which is the climate that we're in at the moment, that is and will be more and more difficult to provide. That's my job, though, to do that.
Okay. What's your views on firemen having secondary jobs? I mean, there's an urban myth that they all do other things, and some do. I mean, what comes first? I mean, what should come first?
Yeah, certainly. We have to be quite careful here in an informed response, because obviously you have maybe some information regarding what they may do and what they don't do. Any firefighter, whole-time firefighter who wishes to undertake secondary employment does have to apply to the Department of Home Affairs, and there are some very strict guidelines which they have to sign up to. Obviously our retained firefighters, their primary employment is their full-time job, which could be an electrician, a plumber, working in an office, etc., etc. They are also very valued members of my service. They really are. And those skills that they actually gain as retained firefighters, that can be first aid skills, management skills, practical skills. As an employer, that's a great person to have in your company working for you. It's a great benefit. It really is.
Is it a cushy job?
I would say not. We have to be trained, we have to be prepared, we have to have the knowledge, and we have to have the information to deal with any type of incident on the Isle of Man. We have a number of strategic risks in terms of the aircraft risks at Ronaldsway Airport. We have obviously the shipping risks. We have the petroleum storage and the gas storage facilities within Douglas. We have also obviously all the other domestic risks, the flooding risk. Any type of incident, we have to be prepared and trained to deal with that. That is very key to the number of people who work for the Fire and Rescue Service. In our terms, we call that resilience. How resilient are the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service when the wheel falls off? 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had 30 firefighters out dealing with numerous flooding incidents across the island. We had to keep an eye on our resilience. I then look into the UK and look at their national resilience, what they can provide to us, and those fire stations, firefighters, backroom staff and appliances, they're actually getting reduced significantly over the next 3 to 4 years. They have to find cuts of 27%. That is significant. So again, I have to look at what is the effect of those cuts to the Isle of Man Fire and Rescue Service. When I contact our neighbouring Northwest services or indeed Northern Ireland, they may turn around to me and say, we may not be able to provide as much in the future. We have to plan for that and be ready for that.
Under Mr. Draper, it's been a steady ship. I don't think it's been that dynamic, but that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's getting on with the job. How do you see your role? Will it be more hands-on or more involvement with everyone?
As this leader of the Fire and Rescue Service, we have to have a hands-on approach at times for operational matters. My role very clearly is to look at the strategic direction of the service. What are we going to look like in 3 to 5 years' time? What opportunities can I give my people, the people who work for me? Because they are, in effect, my greatest asset. Without the people, I haven't got a service. So how can I develop those people? What opportunities can I give them? And again, with how people come into the service, we have to look at retirement. So that links into a succession plan. So what are the risks in terms of people leaving the service? That is key, because people can leave in a very short space of time.
And you're an old contract, aren't you? So you've had a lovely, you've got your pension if you want to go already.
No, that is.
Still got a bit more to do, okay.
Yeah.
But so, you know what I mean? There's new contracts and old contracts, is there not?
Yeah, and that will form part of our people strategy, to look at revised contracts of employment, to look at revised conditions of service. So we're actually going to bring everything up to the 21st century. So we have a modern service, and that everyone in our service knows what is happening, why it is happening. Because at the end of the day, when someone dials 999, I always ask the person, what brings a red fire engine to your front door? And that's the support of the Department of Home Affairs, having the available finances, the resources and the assets to deliver that service. That is very key.
So how long do you have to do before you get your pension? How long in the job?
Well, in the role, my new role as the Chief Officer, I will be in this role for 5 years, and I'm really looking forward to it. Challenges ahead. I think I'm the person to meet those challenges.